As usually we are also not only chanting the holy name, but also saying few words about the meaning of Krishna consciousness. What is the meaning, what we are doing? Joy, Haribol. So what is actually the meaning, what we are doing? Because Srila Prabhupada came and showed us something absolutely revolutionary. Normally, people visit religious functions. They go to church, various churches, for good reasons. It's a place of worship. It's understood. God is great. I'm small. I came here to worship God on Sunday, like example. That's not bad. But Srila Prabhupada showed us something quite much more bigger as that. It was not just the Sunday. It was worship of God every day, every minute, every hour, every breath of our life. Now people can say, how can I do that? I'm working, I'm doing so many things which don't seem to be directly connected to God. So some people even think God is in the church. But here, I don't see any God. Where's God here? It's Malmö, you know. Where's God in Malmö? It's not exactly the place people go to find God, Malmö. Not really. Sorry, but not really. It doesn't remember you on God, really. I think there's a building here close by, supposed to be some kind of church, but it looks exactly like the, bunkers in Berlin I saw for attacks with bombs. You know, the architecture is like that. So you think, is it a bunker or is it a church or what is it? But nevertheless, people still do, very few. Here we are in a part of the world where you don't see much life around the churches. You know, when I see a place, Svenska kyrka, it's usually 5 cars parking there and there's something going on inside. Doesn't look like church, really. But the memory of God is awoken. That's good. The problem is, who is God? That's certainly all kinds of opinions are there. Now, what we speak in Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with our opinion. On one Sunday, one gentleman challenged me. I said, you are always speaking, quoting, like evidently, we usually have Bhagavad Gita, we have a book, we quote what Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, said. But what is your opinion? Don't you have any opinion? And I completely spontaneously was going, what? My opinion? No. The man was shocked. Because that's exactly what the newspapers and everything was writing, that we don't have any opinion. We are brainwashed. No brain, no opinion. No. Oh, I never met, I tell you a secret, I never met in 53 years, being a member of this movement, a collection of such a strong opinionated people coming together like this. Very, very, very heavy individuals. At least I'm coming from a generation of my godbrothers. They were all revolutionaries, one way or another. Absolutely opposing any given norms and so-called rules and regulations by the establishment, what we call it. It went even so far, the hippies used to say, don't trust anybody who is older like 30 years old. Because he is, going his pre-programmed way. No. It didn't work that way. We know that today. Because without Krishna consciousness, it's very difficult to change, actually. Because to change means that Srila Prabhupada defines change being connected to some austerity. You have to renounce something in order to get something new. Yeah. If you stick to something old, you will have a very hard time to accept something new, what to speak of Krishna consciousness. People are full of associations, pre-programmed associations. Yeah. I remember I came once with the father of a devotee to Sweden, close to Stockholm. There is a small town next to Stockholm, it's called Tumba. And he was first time in Sweden. He was from Czech. So coming to Sweden, he was thinking about only one thing, ice hockey. Because Sweden means ice hockey, So when he saw the name Tumba, he goes going, oh, Tumba, that was a famous ice hockey player. Immediately the association was there. Tumba. Now, I didn't have that association because I didn't know Mr. Tumba at all. To me, it doesn't mean anything. But people are like that. They are pre-programmed. I'm Swedish. I'm German. I was born in this town. That's me. Yeah. I am from Skåne. What does it mean? Actually, nobody really knows. This used to be Denmark, you know that. And then now it's Sweden. Who knows what is going to be tomorrow? We don't know. I am born in a country which doesn't exist anymore. I'm born in Czechoslovakia. That doesn't exist, that country. Now it's Czech Republic and Slovakian Republic. So it's like, So it's like, hey, what happened? I mean, just in my one lifetime, short lifetime, so many things changed. Designations. So in order to understand Krishna consciousness, one has to get away from these designations, including not only nationality, but let's say even the type of body we have. We have different bodies, obviously. Different mentalities coming along with the bodies, obviously. But Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with that. Because spiritual life means the first information we get from Bhagavad Gita, we are not this body. We are not the country we are born. We are not the name which is in our passport. This is all external designations. And they can be changed. Obviously, they can be changed. Yeah. We can change our nationality. We can change our name even. We can change everything. But who is me? Real me? Oh, that's a quite important question. Srila Prabhupada said quite frankly, he said, if you don't know who you are, then you are crazy. Why? Because some identity you will have to assume, so you will pick up some identity. I remember when I was a small boy, I always picked up identities. Children do that. I remember I had my fighter, musketeer, the sword fighter, So I was whole day walking around with a stick, and it was me. That kind of went away. Then I was cowboy. It was another identity. And I really lived through this. I was thinking, that's me, yeah. Later on, I thought, everybody has a story to tell, but he thought he was. But actually, it is proven to us, no, then we are not that. The worst thing is when we stick to an identity we ourselves invented, and then we are frustrated because nobody believes that. Because people actually from outside, they can see much more who we are. Just by our way of acting, by our way of being, They know, you are like this. And we go, no, I'm like this. Like I'm coming from an artist community. Well, that's a paradise for artificial identities. As an artist, I grew up with actors, musicians, all kinds of people like this. I never played with children. Children were boring to me. They were just, But I grew up only with grown-up people. And every artist had a very special charisma. and there was quite amazing people. It was quite gifted people, One was pantomime, another one was ballet, another one was painter, another one was musician, singer. Very gifted people. But still, I saw already as a child, they're just playing something. Everybody was kind of playing. And they knew it even. They said, yeah, I'm the actor, I'm playing this. Huh. The whole life is like theater, it's a theater. There are people actually who are aware of this, what kind of false identities we carry around, but they are too lazy to do something about it. In other words, to find the real identity. And that we find in the Bhagavad Gita, which has nothing to do with any religion, because at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, give up all religions. You know what that means? God is saying himself, don't be religious. That is really a challenging statement. Now, Prabhupada didn't discourage that. He said, I didn't came here to change your religion. No. Just on the way here, I heard a morning walk, which Srila Prabhupada recorded, where he speaks. He said, what is the duty of a king, a leader of the country? To make sure that everybody follows his religion. So you can say, but we should give up the religion. No, in the initial stage, it's important that we regulate our life in some way. And every religion brings regulations. Therefore, Prabhupada challenged the Christians. He said, the first command you have, thou shalt not kill. And you are killing all the time. Killing animals, eating them, killing. They go, no, you should not murder. No, there's an interpretation. They stated there, you should not kill. Finished. So actually all the Christians should be vegetarian, isn't it? But even then, Prabhupada said, even then, yeah, we kill too. Plants are alive. Therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you will be maybe a little sinful or big sinful, but you will be sinful. There will be a sin on your part. But you can avoid that sin by offering everything to me. Don't worry, I will take care of it. Krishna is God. He goes, if you offer it to me, there is no sin, no reaction. Otherwise, for every action, there is a reaction. It's a very dangerous life we are living. Because for every action, there will be some reaction. I mean, I'm right now speaking, and you are kind of listening. That's an action, and there might be some reaction. Maybe not everybody agrees, Maybe not everybody, the speaking is a dangerous thing. You never know what happens. So action, reaction. But when you do it for Krishna, there is no actually reaction. You just do it for him. I'm not concerned with the reaction from outside. You just do it. Like Srila Prabhupada started this movement by sitting in a room in America alone. Old man sitting in a room alone. And he was giving lecture to a wall. Because he knew he's not alone. Krishna, God is here. I am here on his mission. If you listen to the first recorded lectures from Srila Prabhupada, they are amazing. They are very long. Usually Srila Prabhupada was later on very regulated. 45 minutes, finished. But the first lectures were actually very long, because he had no movement. There was no movement, there was no disciples, there was no direct followers. It was just a congregation of actually older people. There was not much young people in, So Prabhupada started, ladies and gentlemen. And then comes a very, very philosophical lecture. You think, to whom is he speaking? It was a yoga club. That's a club where these old, fat American ladies come together to make some exercise to lose weight. That was his first audience. And then Prabhupada even asked for questions. You have some questions? I mean, the questions were actually, in the first place, the ladies couldn't even understand. They should listen. He's speaking. So they were speaking too, in the lecture, into him. And sometimes he tolerated, the Prabhupada didn't respond, because actually the system is that after the lecture comes the question, not during the lecture. But Prabhupada tolerated that after all what he could do, and the questions were incredible. Like, are you not alone? Because Prabhupada looks so alone. A single old man coming from India in the middle of New York. No money, no really place to live, really. So it was, Prabhupada goes, yes, I'm longing for my home in Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. That's my home. But my spiritual master told me to come here, so now I am here. And Srila Prabhupada, he just kept on giving lecture. The audience was by no means qualified to understand what he's talking about. Prabhupada didn't care. Later on, when the young people joined, they were more inquisitive and they had more questions. Sometimes very funny questions, because they were intoxicated. There was all kinds of crowd of people. The audience, you can hear it from the lectures, from the early lectures. Just the chanting, because Prabhupada, sometimes the lectures were not so long at the end, because the audience was he realized these people love to chant. Because hippies, they love to play music. Every hippie was a musician, some flute, some guitar, some drums, everybody. So Prabhupada said, this is good. So the kirtans became very long. But the sound coming out of these kirtans, the early recordings, it's like Prabhupada is sitting in hell. I mean, there's all kinds of sound coming, boom, 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 boom. Somebody is banging something, and then, Hare Krishna, shouting, sometimes. And obviously, because there was LSD going around, that's a heavy drug. That's that's heavy. It changes your consciousness totally. Hashish and all this makes you more stupid, more dull. I'm not professional, I never took these things, but I had lots of things to do with people who did. So I am experienced without even taking it. So, but LSD, very dangerous, very crazy, you see things which nobody could see before. And so sometimes you hear Prabhupada in the middle of the chanting, sit down, because somebody was just completely crazy, spinning out. The questions was, when I chant, there's a light over my head. Prabhupada said, just keep on chanting, it will be switched off. Things like that. This was going on. This is how this movement started. And Srila Prabhupada didn't consider the audience at the beginning very much. He was just happy somebody came at all. And somebody was chanting at all, taking part. And by his incredible appearance, you couldn't call it even erudition. He was just such a gentleman that people start to, in his presence, immediately behave like better. They couldn't be like normal they are, vulgar or whatever. Not possible with Srila Prabhupada. He just look at you and immediately we just, okay, now I have to become a better man, okay? Now I have to behave better. Which actually many people didn't even know how to do that. Yeah? And Srila Prabhupada, he had to be incredibly tolerant to start with these young people who were crazy, intoxicated, had no spiritual background whatsoever. There is a different thing when you go to India, where people are still, very largely, have some sort of spiritual background. They know, now come to temple, here you bow down, he is the man speaking, okay, you are respectful, you behave. But these hippies over there, they didn't know anything. When Srila Prabhupada said, we have to all accept spiritual guidance, we must accept guidance from a guru. So they asked Prabhupada, where do we find guru? They couldn't understand. He is sitting right away in front of them. And Prabhupada didn't say anything. He was never advertising himself. He just started to cry, actually. He said, my guru saved me. And then I realized, oh, this is something very serious. And finally, some brilliant hippie got the idea to ask, well, Prabhupada, maybe you are our guru. And Prabhupada said, if you think so. He wanted them to understand. You see, that's how Krishna consciousness works. We appeal to people, hope against hope, until we get some Krishna conscious response. And sometimes we don't. And then our preaching was not so successful. But you cannot indoctrinate people with Krishna consciousness as it's done in a case of blind belief. There's enough preaching going on that line. Believe or go out. Who is not with us, he is against us. That's actually a communistic slogan. They are perfect religion, communists. There's one very wise man from Ireland, I'm not going to quote him, but he's a very, very intelligent man, Mr. Bernard Shaw. He said very, very long time ago, he said, communism and the Catholic Church is not so different. There is never lack of preachers. It's always, go to, become Christian, otherwise you go to hell. Become communist, otherwise you will be finished. So it's this dogmatic preaching has no place in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the biggest consciousness you can have. It doesn't relate or is not limited by any concept of particular religion. Even there are different paths to God. We respect that. We encourage a Christian to be a good Christian, Muslim to be a good Muslim. And whatever Hindu is, you ask Hindu, what is Hindu? They have no idea. They go, Hindu, me, worshipping Durga, the Hindu. Worshipping Shiva, Hindu. Worshipping Ganesh, Hindu. It's all just blah, 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 blah. But they do respect Bhagavad Gita. But in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no word Hindu. Not one word about this. There is no one word about some particular religion. It's about God consciousness. And God is God. He doesn't have any particular, even religious identity. God is for everybody, everywhere. Same God. But he is so big and so universal that he can be approached in different ways. Why not? Like when you will be amazed to hear that Srila Prabhupada, once devotees got an offer in New York, actually in America they got quite a few offers like this, to buy an old church. There was many churches empty. The church was selling all these buildings, which nobody wanted to buy, because what do you do with a church? You cannot live in it with a family. You cannot run a company, and you cannot turn it into an office building. It's quite useless place, actually. So there was actually, I heard testimonies from God brothers. They got such a church, still with the benches, everything equipped, with the thing you go up the stairs and then you preach from above like this, from the... and Prabhupada said something so shocking. He said, there were people who used to come here, so keep it. Keep it with the benches here and this. We just preach Krishna conscious philosophy, which is easy because God is God. I mean, I know devotees, they are expert in Bible. Pritu Prabhu is one of my god brother. He is shocking any Christian because he knows much more from Bible, like most of the Christians who walk around. Some or other. This is his hobby, he knows that. So, but he can give a lecture from Bible, just like this, and quote Bhagavad Gita, and Bible, and Bhagavad Gita, and Bible, Bhagavad Gita. He has no problem with that. Actually, Jesus is, I know only some quotes, quite heavy. And much more heavy as Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, you do it for me. Jesus says, this material world is like a bridge. Nobody builds houses on bridges. This is something you pass through. And if your body gives you some problem, your eye gives you problem, just block it out. Yeah, it's a statement in the Bible. I saw this quote. Just block it out. Well, not very loving, isn't it? Jesus, when he came to the temple, and he saw the local businessmen turn the temple, because it's a place of congregation. So wherever people congregate, some people come to sell things, naturally. So when he saw they are turning the temple in a marketplace, he took a rope and he beat violently all the salesmen out of the temple because they were misusing the place of worship. But they are quite heavy things. Christians are so family-oriented. When Jesus' family came, the Holy Joseph and the Maria, to visit him and his disciples, the disciples said, Jesus, your mother and your father arrived. And Jesus said, I don't have any father, I don't have any mother. I don't have any family. This is my family, my preaching. Pretty heavy. Even we don't say that. So of course this is not preached, because Jesus was nowadays made to some chief of Red Cross company or I don't know what. No, Prabhupada was very sympathetic to Jesus Christ. He called him Shaktivesh Avatar, empowered personality, to preach. He said he was preaching, it's recorded, 3 years. Look what happened. In 3 years, look what happened. So he was empowered. That Jesus actually died in India and all this is documented, we know that. But it's not established officially. We don't care. It's just, we are not going to argue. Prabhupada even said we shouldn't actually be abusive to other religions. We should only encourage people to follow their religion. And every religion has a precise rules and regulations to offer. Muslims, they have also their heavy rules, So if you follow, it's already some good in it because you are regulated. And all the religions accept the supremacy of God. Who is God? It's not sad. Sorry, but we don't get the information in Christianity. Who is God? The Father in heaven. Yeah, great. Certainly, we totally agree. First of all, what is heaven? We have all kinds of strange questions. People don't like us because of that. Srila Prabhupada also said the Christians cannot go back to God because they are always praying to go to heaven. It's in a prayer. So a good Christian will assume a very comfortable heavenly position as a reward for his pious deeds. And there he can cultivate further Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said, I came here to make you better Christian, to make you better Muslim. Of course, that's a problem. They always think they are the best. And there we have already a problem. So Srila Prabhupada was not impressed by people competing and fighting over some religious, even religious designations. He preached something much more bigger, much more beyond that. We are still trying to discover the scope of Srila Prabhupada's preaching, what he presented us. He presented us a whole culture, whole society, working, with people with different functions. It's all in detail commented upon and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. How the different classes of people. Yes, there are already different classes of people. They always scream that we are all one. No, we are not all one. Who is one here in Malmö with somebody? You know, there's so many different people walking around and everybody is different. Even amongst the Muslims are different people. Amongst the Christians there are different people. There are more Orthodox Muslims and more Orthodox Christians and more less Orthodox and less Orthodox people too. So there are differences, you know. Yeah, we find it the same thing, by the way, in Krishna consciousness, the same thing. But there is a border where the individuality, individual expression ends, because we have to come together on the principle which is relating to everybody. And principle is for everybody. How we practice the principle and how we apply ourselves, that may be different. You know, that may be different. You know, when I travel around, and if you want to have a really good look, if you ever can do that, go to Mayapur Dham, to Sri Dham Mayapur, during the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, which is in March somewhere. And that devotees from all over the world come together. I mean, they come nowadays together even outside of that, but previously it was like the main thing. And just watch how different devotees are. Everybody is chanting differently, but the same holy name. Worshipping Krishna, but slightly differently. Like I have a really hard time to follow when the Indian Bengali devotees chant Hare Krishna with the kirtan. First of all, they all sing so high that my voice doesn't even go that high. I cannot even get that high. Then I chant such a fast Bengal. It's a very heavy place, very passionate, you know. When Bengali talking to each other, you think, oh no, they will fight. There's a big fight coming. No, they're just saying good morning, that's all. They go, and it's just a normal conversation, you know. And you go like, oh. But for them it's normal. For me it's not normal. Similarly, amongst devotees, there are so many different ways. Here in North, things are more quiet and more, you know, just the language is funny. When I came to Sweden first time, 1986, and when I heard the devotees going, Yaya Prabhupada, because they have problem with this Jaya Prabhupada, so they were going, Ya, Srila Prabhupada, Yaya Prabhupada. I was going, wow, you know. And then when you go to the other countries, you go to Italy, oh my God, it's like the kirtan is like an opera, you know. You know, it's like, wow, you know. So it's like, that doesn't matter. There's place for everybody in Krishna consciousness, provided we meet on the same principles given in Bhagavad Gita. When you study carefully Bhagavad Gita, you find very basic principles being laid down. Krishna says exactly who is a devotee, how he acts, how he can be, Krishna, how he can be approached. And everything is in Bhagavad Gita, exactly described in great detail. So we just have to study and then apply it to our time, place, and circumstances also. It's difficult. I don't know how I would explain to an Eskimo, you know. Actually, the only devotees in Antarctica, I heard so. But how do you say, we are not eating any meat, no eggs, and no fish. What do you mean, no fish? It's the only thing they have. Some Eskimo out there, you know, that's the only thing he eats. So how can I tell him no fish? It's not possible. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada had to make adjustments for us, the Westerners, regarding how much chanting we have to do a day, you know. If we would take the strict, really top standard, we couldn't do this in the West. Impossible. And then devotees asked Prabhupada, are there more regulations, more restrictions? Prabhupada said, if I would tell you all of these restrictions, you will all go home again. And I will be again alone here, sitting here alone. So he did make adjustments, but he didn't change the principle. The principles are not changed. And that's the important part. To study this, we have to really carefully study Bhagavad Gita along the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, where he gives quite astonishing definition to very differently established names. Like the ultimate stage of life is sannyas. What is sannyas? Srila Prabhupada says, sannyas means to do the needful. Very funny definition. That means you dedicate everything to the needful purpose to serve Krishna. The color of the dress and all this is secondary. What is initiation? Prabhupada said, initiation, that word initiation means beginning. It's not the end. It's the beginning. You are initiated into the process of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sometimes new people, they read Prabhupada's books, and they find description of a perfect human being, perfect devotee, perfect God. Everything is so perfect in Prabhupada's books. And then you look around and you see those who practice Krishna consciousness and sometimes not so perfect. So sometimes people have a crisis of faith, They think, what is this? This is not so perfect. Because they don't understand. It's a process. It's a hospital. It's a rectification institution. So you cannot expect everybody in a hospital being healthy instantly. No. Actually, as a matter of fact, there are many sick people in a hospital, you know that? Sometimes even the doctors get sick. So this naive expectations, which very often beginners have, they lead only to frustration. Because the reality is, we are all learning. It never stops. I'm learning 53 years, I'm learning. It never stops. Rather, the lessons are more and more amazing. Because you learn two ways, by hearing and by experiencing. So we hear in Krishna consciousness how things should be, and then we experience how difficult it is to get there. There is jnana, that means theoretical knowledge. And then is vijnana, realized knowledge. And Prabhupada said only then, on a platform of realized knowledge, you really know. Before that, you have the theoretical idea, you have the information, that's good. That's some knowledge. But to come to the level of practice, that's not easy. So, you may tell the child, don't touch the fire, it's hot. But he thinks, no, it's funny. Well, at a certain point, he may even touch it. And you go, it hurts. Oh, then comes the knowledge. So we have a regulated way in Krishna consciousness how to practice and how to learn. The worst thing is when somebody comes to conclude that he already learned everything. Nothing more to learn. Srila Prabhupada showed us even he was so perfect in so many regards. But he was open to learn. He was still collecting information. Oh, acha. Somebody brought some new thing from scriptures or something. Oh, acha, yeah. Prabhupada was very open. One should never close the receiving channel. Once you close the receiving channel and you are only broadcasting, which can happen after you heard a lot. So then when you heard a lot, you think, I know so much, I'm broadcasting. Yeah? Srila Prabhupada demonstrated, this is a very detailed story, but I just tell you, he demonstrated how amazingly he is ready to accept information even from a totally unqualified person. Because God can speak through everybody. Who said he cannot? So sometimes when you are open, people say things, whoop. When you are really receptive, you go, well, that's interesting. How can this idiot have so much knowledge? It's amazing. It's shocking sometimes. So there was a situation where Srila Prabhupada was participating in installation of Jagannath deities in Amsterdam. It was very early stage. Things were very chaotic. And if you know Holland, if you know this, still lots of those days, lots of hashish going around. And things were a little bit disorganized. But it was announced as a great event. Press was present and Prabhupada was invited. So, but things were so out of order that Prabhupada was already sitting in the temple room and there was still on the altar so many things going on, it was not ready. Not only that, but the altar in itself started to collapse. Prabhupada had to jump suddenly from the altar and he was holding the whole altar so it doesn't collapse on Lord Jagannath. So devotees were like, they fixed it. Prabhupada sat back and then he was with the beadbag arguing, directing the devotees. You pick up this, the flowers over there, and you put this pot here. No, you do this. And there was already the press, and there was the guests were already arrived. And they saw Prabhupada just... And for some, it was quite shocking, because it's widely established until today that the holy man is only smiling. He's not doing anything. He's just smiling. And when you see him, you also start smiling. Everybody has to smile. But Srila Prabhupada was not always smiling, especially not on that occasion. So finally, things became so crazy. Actually, it finally took place. But things became so crazy that one hippie who was coming, just visiting, who was agitated by seeing the holy man just pushing people and organizing, he just stood up and shouted at Prabhupada, "Swami, just cool down, sit down, be peaceful." Not really offensive, just because he couldn't take this. And Prabhupada stopped immediately, looked at him, he said, "Actually, you are right." Then he sat on the Vyasasa and he was just chanting. Devotees were shocked. He said, who is commanding whom here? Because Prabhupada took it like Krishna telling him, it will be taken care of, cool down. So, it's just a forward story, but Prabhupada was ready he was asking, in a form of management, mainly. What do you think? What shall we do? What do you want to do? Because he wanted the devotees to take responsibility, to grow up. Srila Prabhupada didn't like sheeps. He called them the Dandavat class. Foolish people, they forget everything, but as soon as they see a guru, they bow down. That's the only thing they didn't forget. Otherwise, they forget everything. So Prabhupada said, yeah, that's something. We can accept that. But he was not inspired by that. He was inspired when devotees brought ideas, when they were innovative, And they just, they go, Prabhupada, cannot we do like this? Or maybe we should do like that. And Prabhupada was going, yeah, this is a good idea. He was inspired. So Krishna consciousness is very interactive. And it can reach anybody, provided we want it. That part, nobody can change. The desire, it's voluntary. Nobody can be pushed to be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada said, yeah, if we are established as a worldwide society, real society, with all the different divisions of society, then people can be pushed to become Krishna conscious. Because they are pushed anyway. People think they are free. This is a joke. Nobody is free. People are indoctrinated day and night. You go on internet, they will tell you what to think. They will tell you what's important. And the really important thing they will not tell you. So, so it's constant in the schools everywhere. When I remember my own school time, I went 7 years to a communistic school and 5 years or 6 years to a capitalistic school. So by the age of 16, 17, I was a total cynic. I didn't believe anything, anybody. Because it was so many lies, just so much cheating was going on in a form of education to start with. We are not speaking about spiritual ignorance. We are speaking simply from a material point of view. So much cheating and misinformation going on. So Krishna says very simply in the Bhagavad Gita, you should stop bothering whatever was said, whatever will be said in the material world, not our concern. Our concern is to practice spiritual life and encourage those who actually want to have a spiritual life. Spiritual consciousness. And that's eternal. Everything else is changing. All the time. Changing. Just Sweden, when I came in 1986 to Sweden, it was different Sweden. Sweden changed. It was a very idealistic place here. I remember that. It was still the dream of some kind of, I remembered communism has this kind of same dreams, community and all together and all this, and this dream is gone. It's all finished. Now we have another Sweden. And it's all over the place. When I came first time to Norway, you cannot imagine, I was the first devotee in Norway, 1976, 75 coming to Norway. There was no devotees, there was no temple, there was nothing. Oh, Norway was like I thought, wow, what a place. They were like fishermen, simple fishermen. Oslo was like a bigger fisherman village. And they were all like, yes, so, norsk, yeah. Problem was nobody spoke English. So I had to have a Norwegian translator with me to distribute Prabhupada's books on the street. But they were all very nice people, very innocent. They were, I felt like they're a little bit like chickens, chickens, they was going, something like that. So, so I felt like, but it was very pleasant to be there. No, it's not so pleasant, no. No, it's not pleasant. You come to Oslo, it's cameras everywhere, tunnels, and just pay. Police always watching everybody, just, it's completely, it's absurd. It's just like, what happened? So, yeah, things do change. But Krishna consciousness doesn't change. That's the beauty of it. I can quote the same Bhagavad Gita I quoted 50 years ago. I say the same thing I said 50 years ago. Maybe a little bit differently, but the same thing. So it's such a beautiful thing. You have stability in your life. You have something which is not only stable, but it's eternal. It never changes. Truth, the real nature of truth is, it never changes. And there is no conflict ultimately. If everybody would be really in Krishna consciousness, we would not discuss if we should be Krishna conscious. We would discuss how to be Krishna conscious. And that's a positive discussion. Free of this hurting, conflicting argument. This is actually the positive part. So Krishna consciousness by nature is extremely positive. And people get the point when they see devotees dancing on a street. They go, that's the only time I see some happy people, you know that? Otherwise you don't get that. Where do you get inspiration? They speak about this. You have to be positive. About what? About this body? Well, how do I get positive about this body? It's getting old and it's falling apart. And people will die. It's not a very big positive news. But for a devotee, this is natural. This is happening. And because he has spiritual life and spiritual consciousness, that goes beyond this body, beyond this temporary material things which are constantly changing. So we can taste it right now. We can do that. That's up to us. That means to disconnect ourselves from all this, you know what's happening, Nothing new, really. It's just another fool trying to be the God, that's all. Another fool trying to be the owner of the world, and what? Like borders, passport. Srila Prabhupada was very cynical about that. He compared border police with dogs, You come to somebody's fence and the dog goes, whoa, 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 So he said, it's like border police, they barking. So he said, borders are changing. They can change. So what's the use of this? It's not. But the birds, there's no Norwegian birds, no Swedish birds. They just, they just fly over the border and they pass stool on the head of the border police. No problem. No visa, no passport, nothing. So the birds are on a higher level like humans. Animals don't care. The rivers don't care. They flow through different countries. They don't need any visa for that. So this, we can see it. So Krishna consciousness is like that. It's beyond any visa. It's beyond any border. It's beyond any conditioning we carry in our heads. So to understand that, one becomes actually a very happy person. To understand I'm eternal and all this is temporary. So there's not so much more to say, but there's maybe some questions, some comments.
I want to ask, because I remember that one time in one of the lectures I heard Prabhupada saying that for Christians, for example, is also they can use Hare Krishna. I would like you to explain if there is, and how would you describe the difference between Christ consciousness and Krishna consciousness? And I'm not talking now about the story of Jesus.
Srila Prabhupada said, consciousness means actually Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, you are unconscious. That's a pretty radical statement. People go, what do you mean in unconscious? I feel things, that's, Lucy, I'm here. No, it's just a dream. Prabhupada didn't consider this to be so real. He said, why? Because you are completely grabbed and controlled by material energy. Motivated by puppet. There is a small individual freedom of choice, otherwise you would really feel it strange. But it's very small. Otherwise, we are completely controlled. Now we are sitting here. Yes. How do you think? But you think I'm controlled? Nah. Just few hours from now, we are all going to be lying on a floor, completely unconscious. Completely finished. How does that happen? I didn't plan for that. I don't want that. It's happening, and it will happen. Somebody said, I'm free, but I have to go to the toilet. Okay, really, so much for freedom, isn't it? The free man looks for the toilet. Srila Prabhupada gave a really good example. He said, the man thinks, I'm free, I'm God. There were really so crazy people who were saying this kind of thing when he was around. I'm God. And Prabhupada said, and then one tooth goes bad. And he goes, Prabhupada, the God goes to the dentist. So, we are more controlled as we think. Controlled, dominated by memories, Even when we close the eyes, the mind is still there, imagining things, remembering things. He's a very nostalgic fellow. Do you remember? No, I don't want to remember. No, you will remember anyway. People know that. And people try to escape that by going on holiday. They say, now something new will happen. That's hellish. They all go at the same time, that's hellish. If you want to find out, I travel very often to Croatia, to Balkan, and I said, I will never come here during the holiday time, okay? Because this is really hell. It's 1 million Czechs alone going down to Croatia, to the ocean. That's hellish. And they all try to enjoy desperately now what they missed the whole year around. So when all people try to enjoy now, it becomes hellish. You ever notice when people come together to enjoy how hellish things get? And they enjoy even that. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? They pay to go to a concert where the singer on the stage goes, let's go to hell. And they are all in bliss. They are, of course, let's go to hell. They don't have to go to hell, they are already there. Sometimes people get killed on these events. So it's like, is this really enjoyment or what? Obviously, it doesn't work that way. I remember that in a school I was challenged by, I was already in German. I was going half school in Czech, half school in German. And I was reading a lot, I was writing a lot, in both languages. And the teacher was giving us a challenging task. Write an essay in German. And he already gave us the title, which was a mistake. Because I hated just the fact that I already got a title I have to write, want to make my own title. Why should we go on holiday? I said, what a stupid title. So I said, okay. I was so fed up. Then I took the paper. There was, why should we go on holiday on top? And I wrote in the middle of the paper, yes, why? When I gave it back, that was the essay. The teacher was highly dissatisfied. He said, this is not an essay. This is 2 sentences. This is ridiculous. So either you write a new one or you'll get really bad note. I said, okay. So I start to write an essay. Why do we shall go on holiday? By extremely detailed description of all the hellish things what can happen to you on holiday. Very much inspired by reality. It was such a 4 pages of such a horror description. Starting from car accidents, then people lying around, and then my father getting his skin burned on a beach. It was peeling from his body and all this. I mean, really horrible things. I got a good note for that, and the teacher didn't say anything anymore. Because he was going, this guy is so crazy. Better you don't ask him anymore. So it's like, we didn't want to be dictated that way, but we had to. There was no escape. No escape. The only time you get the feeling of freedom is when you are completely controlled by Krishna. It doesn't make any sense, materially spoken, but this is actually where we belong. This is the real thing. And Krishna lets you go. He goes, oh, now you are serving me fully. So what do you want to do for me? There is a freedom. But you have to do exactly what Krishna says. It's like a father. Prabhupada gave a simple example. When the son is very obedient and very loyal, then the father gives freedom to the son. You can make some new enterprise, or, he gives him even money for that. Yes, because he trusts him. He is very loyal. But when he is a stupid guy and or disobedient, well, then he does. Then you have to work on your own. That's how it works in reality. One is to discover it by practice. Therefore Krishna says, only through devotional service I can be recognized. No other way. Not by flirting with Krishna or by our mental, good sounding, but mental designation. I think I serve Krishna now like that. Yeah, I think like this. Yeah. No. That's the reason why we accept spiritual guidance. Because then the responsibility goes to the guide. It's a big thing. If a guru gives a wrong instruction or misguides a disciple, he goes to hell. The reactions for that are immense. So it's a very responsible position. Therefore, every guru has his own guru, just to be safe. The whole guru parampara is a one safety system. One guards the other. One is under the shelter of the other. That's called guru parampara. And then we can be bold. Then we can tell people, do this. You know? But if you are not sheltered like this, very, very tricky, very dangerous. It's like a doctor, you know. He must know. And he must be a bona fide doctor. He may have even good medicine, but given in a wrong way to the wrong patient, it turns into poison. So this is a serious thing. Everything is very logical in Krishna consciousness. This was the beauty of Prabhupada. Suddenly in his presence everything was so clear. It was so logical. Everything was, oh, now I can understand, yes. And outside of that, oh, I think, I believe. In my opinion, Prabhupada said, when you start like this, stop it. You don't have to even continue. It's guaranteed garbage coming. I think, I believe, in my opinion. What is the value of your belief and opinion? Where is it coming from? Where is that coming from? So people don't like to hear these things sometimes because, you know, they think it limits them. No, it liberates them. You know what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita? He says, you have to follow the liberating principles of freedom. It's completely contradictory because principle means no freedom. And freedom means no principle. No. There's a Krishna conscious version. There's a principles which lead us to freedom. But again, one has to practice that. So Krishna consciousness is not just for sitting here and talking, it's also practice. Yeah.
So you said it's not a religion, Krishna consciousness, but why do disciples get ordained? Why do they dress up in a certain way? Why don't we see like kirtans where Buddhists and Christians dress up in their own dresses all together under Krishna consciousness?
You mean what?
Sign?
Why they are different religions? Or
No, I mean, you said it's not a religion, but
yeah.
I doubt it by questioning.
It's not a religion. Religion is just a way to get to Krishna consciousness. So in the ultimate sense, if you are a good Buddhist, if you are Buddhist is different because they don't accept God as being a person. But if you are a good Muslim, a good Christian, a good Hindu, we should all meet on a certain point and praise each other. So nice how we are serving God like this. Because all these, when we mention these three religions, there is Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's established. It's Allah or Father in heaven, or, you know, we have ultimately, we know who that Father is, it's Krishna. So, you know, we know that. But whoever accepts that concept alone, at least on that platform, we should. And I met people, very rarely, but I met respectful Christians who were appreciating very much Krishna consciousness. They were excommunicated. Ultimately, they were kicked out from the church. Srila Prabhupada preached to such a Christian in Germany. He met such a alternative priests. They were, after that meeting with Prabhupada, they were kicked out. That's how sectarian and how limited it is. That's called demon or Kanishta Adhikari. Kanishta Adhikari is a type of devotee who is very limited by material concepts. So there are different paths. We could meet. Would be nice. We are not, we are the only one who actually open. Yeah, sure, let's come, I give an example of Italy, which is probably one of the most pious places still in Europe. In Italy, I was living there for a while too, so I found still alive monasteries, but they have also a problem with new people. There's a problem. There's no new people coming, really. But there were still relatively young people living in these real monasteries, really celibacy student. And they were very happy people, not kind of dry old monks. No, they were very happy. And then I heard from devotees who go out and distribute books in Italy, which is quite easy, especially in the south part. And south part is very poor. The north part is rich. But the more poor people become, usually the more receptive they are. And then the devotee told me, I have a big problem while distributing these books. I come in, first of all, Italy, if you would know how the people live there, nobody is in the middle of the day on the street. It's called siesta. It's hot. So let's say from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, there's nobody on the street. They are all drinking wine and sleeping. Eating. Eating is a big thing in Italy. So, and then they work later in the evening and they live at night. It's really at night, everything becomes alive. So he said, I have a problem because I go up in the morning to distribute books. 12 o'clock, nobody there. But there is one place in the small towns in Italy which is always full in the middle of the day. That's the church. People go in the middle of the day, they go to the church. There's a service in a church. And he said it didn't take long. One of the local priests, it's small towns, he came out of the church and he saw me again, dressed like this, distributing books. That's very standard in Italy. He was going, oh, monk, please come. You see, I have my congregation here. It's middle of the day. I made my service, my puja there, my service. I'm supposed to give now a lecture, but I think you should give a lecture. He said, I was shocked. I said, well, me? I'm Hare Krishna. I'm going, okay, I can do that. Devotees are very bold, especially those who distribute books. They are very used to any kind of circumstances. So he went in a church, he went up this, they have this box, there you go up. And he gave a short lecture using Christian expressions sometimes, but preaching Bhagavad Gita. It was very well received. The problem is it happened in more churches and it became like a regular thing. That, that he traveled around Italy and always in this town in the middle of the day he had lecture here in a church, the next day in that church, and next day that church, like that. We have no problem with that. And he was very well received. Ah, monk speaking now here, yeah, very nice. And he was using we have no problem with Christianity, it's love of God, right? That's what Jesus is preaching. You should love God, great. That's our philosophy. And that Muhammad and Allah is great, Allah Akbar, Allah is great. So we can tell people how great He is. Huh. They will be amazed how great Allah is. But naturally, Muslim countries are the most difficult one. Very fanatical, very violent. The atrocities Muslims committed in India is beyond anything what you ever heard in the history of India. Beyond anything you can imagine. Some Mr. Hitler and all this is all small people, you know. What the Muslims did in India was outrageous. So, you know, unfortunately it is very much a religion of people who are living in areas where violence is very prominent. In India, you can see in India how if you would put that many Europeans compressed together like in India, they will kill each other immediately. In India, it's like, yeah. He is here. If some trouble comes, it's only politically instigated. Otherwise, people themselves, they had no problems even with Muslims before. But Krishna consciousness is, like I said, beyond this. This is not. Therefore, Prabhupada didn't want us to take part in politics. He attempted on a certain point to do this and he stopped it. He said it's useless. It's not our line. He didn't want us to go and vote, you know. So then you take karma for this. He said, we have nothing to do with this. We are offering a spiritual alternative. But he commented sometimes too. He said, well, Krishna also was on a battlefield of Kurukshetra. It's a political thing. But there was a higher purpose behind the whole thing. It's a whole philosophy behind why the battle of Kurukshetra took place. But it was politically instigated, so Krishna was there, but as an observer more. He was not directly fighting. He was just guiding the chariot of his devotee.
But did it really physically took place?
Hmm?
Did that really physically happen? The battle of Kurukshetra, or was it the battle of Kurukshetra? Is it physically really happened, or
Kurukshetra is until today there.
no, but what is described?
The location is there, and you can go and see the place. There was even archaeological excavations on that place, Kurukshetra. And they were shocked. They found, you know, when they were excavating on the place which, this is still until today, it's a big plain, you know, and millions of soldiers were there. So they found mysterious places, like when they uncovered the earth, they found whole layers of glass. Should not be there, glass. Yeah, but this is the melted sand from the Brahmastras, from the weapons which were charged, you know, there. So things like that, of course it happened. It was massive, absolutely massive. Very manual. Because the culture was that they could have used technology. They knew about technology, but it was not considered not cultured. You have to measure the opponent by physical strength. But the weaponry that were used were far beyond technology. This was not some simple archery. No, not at all. These arrows were charged by mystic powers. These warriors, they were very much trained in mystic yoga. So the arrows were charged with mantras, and there was ferocious fighting taking place. There was arrows which could cause earthquake, arrows which could cause rainfall, and things like that. And Normal arrows don't do that. Still, archery is an interesting sport. I got, by mistake, I got captured by that for a little while. So I know. Very addictive. I gave up. It's very addictive. Because it's in the head. It's just, you can direct the arrow by your mind. When you realize you can do that, then you get fun out of it. No, this is too addictive. It's not needed.
Is that considered CDs?
Huh?
Would that be considered a CD? Would that ability to control the arrow with your mind consider a CD?
Yeah, you can count. Even quite simple people can do that. They can make things happen by their mental force. If the desire is there. Simply all one line. The desire, the mind, the senses, all focus. That's how we are supposed to go back home, back to Godhead. Ekaha Buddhinandana is called. One-pointed intelligence. No distraction anymore. Just not easy. That has to be practiced. It's like, I don't want to go in Mahabharata, but there was a contest how to get a new wife, by amongst the archers. It was very tricky because it was not just shooting a target. It was how to shoot a target which was reflected in a pot of water hanging on a ceiling. There was a fish fixed on the ceiling in a wheel. And you could see the reflection in the mirror. The water was moving still. So it was not a clear mirror. And with that, you have to hit the fish. And when Arjuna came up, his teacher, Drona, he said, what do you see? And Arjuna said, I don't even see the fish. I see the eye of the fish. Drona said, release the arrow. And he hit exactly. Because it's just all in the mind. So this is something like that. There's a special meditation for special kind of people, Kshatriya. They do this kind of things. Others, they can do similar things, but by other means. They don't need archery for that. Yeah. But the whole idea is always the same. To focus one mind on Krishna in an undeviated way. This is the whole training what we are doing all the time. It takes a whole lifetime, maybe more lifetimes to do this. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we have to proceed with the program.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, always for us it is pleasure to have all of you here, really.